Welcome to Big Blend Radio's virtual cafe. Pull up a seat and let's find out who we're having a happy hour conversation with today. Welcome, everybody. It is time for another happy hour show here on Big Blend Radio. And today we're going to have a hometown happy hour. You know, because when you think about the holidays coming, a lot of times people go back home. And it's like, oh, we're going back home. And you go back to your room in your house. And it's still decorated when you were a teenager, right? I don't know if that still exists, but that's what's in the movie. So we thought we'd go with it and talk about what it's like to live in different places around the world. So many of us on this show today have lived in multiple places. So we have multiple hometowns. What is a hometown? Is it where you were raised and went to school? Is it a place you've lived your whole life? We're going to find out today. We have some awesome guests. And so as always, we get on our Big Blend Radio party bus, our happy hour bus. Priscilla, our pink sock monkey, she's our travel mascot, drives the bus, serves cocktails, food, wine. You know, she is a busy little monkey. And so right now we're going to get driving out of Tallahassee, Florida. That's where we're at as we record this. And Miss Nancy's back on the show. Nancy, you know, we got it. Priscilla's been doing good on these happy hour shows, but it's time to almost put her back into full-time work, I think. She's been resting a lot.
She's getting lazy.
Yeah, she's been kind of chilling, and it's time for her to do some, we got to get her back on pictures, and, you know, she's got to be, you know, back being as a sock monkey influencer as we travel again, don't you think? It's time.
Sure, why not?
The monkey must come out. What would you like her to fix you before we take off? Because we're going to go to South Carolina. What would you like her to fix you to eat and drink that kind of reminds you of your first hometown in your mind? Like the first one that comes to your mind.
Okay, rum and Coke and a grilled cheese sandwich with pickles in it.
All right. Well, you know she knows how to make those. Somehow I know she knows. All right, Miss Priscilla, we're going to head off. We're going up to South Carolina from Tallahassee. We're going to go pick up Jo Clark. You know, she loves to go everywhere. She's got a podcast with us every second Sunday. Jo Goes Everywhere is the name, and that is also her handle on Instagram. And you can go to her website, haveglasswilltravel.com. So Jo is on happy hour all the time with us, but she is up in the Myrtle Beach area, which is known as the Grand Strand. So how are you, Jo?
I am great. The weather here is gorgeous. When I can wear my bathing suit and do my morning walk at 7 a.m, I'm a happy girl.
I didn't know if you were going to say bathing or birthday suit. You never know what happens on this happy hour bus, you know.
Well, I know. We won't talk about what I'm wearing now, but when I walked on the beach, I was wearing a bathing suit, not a birthday suit.
Okay, I thought maybe you're walking down the street in your bathing suit.
Yeah, we're just checking to see if you were naked.
Too. You know, from my house to the beach and then down the beach.
All right. What would you like, Miss Priscilla, to fix you to eat and drink that reminds you of your very first hometown or hometown? Any of them, actually, when you think about it.
Well, gee, I guess, you know, just a glass of moonshine if we're going to talk about my hometown.
Go, girl.
All right.
I was all prepared to ask for a pumpkin creme brulee martini, because I'm getting in the mood for Thanksgiving.
Wow.
So you're double fisting here? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, if I can have 2 drinks, that might last me the whole bus ride.
All right. Yeah. Well, we're going a distance because we're going to the desert too. We're going to go up north to Virginia.
I'll need 2 drinks if we're headed across to the desert.
Yeah, and we have water on board, everybody. And apparently you don't need sunscreen today, but I do want to know what you're going to eat. What do you pair with moonshine?
Moonshine goes with everything, but it goes really well with fruit. You know, a nice glass of moonshine and maybe apple slices.
Priscilla wants to give you some bananas. I've
Well,
had banana
it,
moonshine. Have you?
bananas might be good with it too, but especially if you add a few strawberries.
All right. So you're
Mm.
having a fruit salad. We're just giving you the big, glorious basket of fruit for Joe,
Okay,
right? Yeah, that
that
sounds good. Even
works.
with,
And I'll
e-
share.
all right. You want some cheese and crackers too? Because that kind of balances out, maybe. Or you're going to have some of those French macarons again. That seems to be your new thing.
It really does. I was just in Costco today and the macarons are in the freezer section. I was so tempted and I tried so hard to be good.
What are they? Freeze macarons? Really?
Well, now
I'm
I
not,
said freezer. I think it was the freezer section. Yeah, it might be the
huh.
refrigerator section, but um, yeah,
Hmm,
they come in, I don't know, it looks like maybe 18 or 24 in a box,
hmm.
different
I didn't know that.
flavors. There's like probably 6 rows of cookies of different flavors. And
Listen,
I tried to resist because I'm a cookie monster. Man, cookies call my name and those cookies I would have to have one of each flavor when I sit down to have a cookie. I would have to have one of each cookie. So
okay. Well,
Oh
I need
boy.
to
I'm
tell you.
dangerous.
No, I would need to tell you, Nancy and I, after Halloween, when we did the Halloween podcast with you and Joey Stuckey, um, I ended up buying Reese's peanut butter cups, and it's your fault. Even
It's my
sent
fault.
you a
What
photo.
wine did you put with it?
I can't even remember. It was a red. I know it was a red, probably a cab. And then, so when we got here in Tallahassee, our friends here, they're like, "Oh, we have some, cookies, Halloween
Leftovers?
cookies for you." Listen, they had like oatmeal raisin cookies with little M&Ms in there and jiggly eyes, little
That was
eyes.
fun.
And then here's the thing. There was this giant cookie, one each with M&Ms, chocolate chip M&M cookies. And the center of the cookie was an entire Reese's peanut butter cup. I just want you to know.
Oh, you really had it made.
That's
You
Hmm.
had,
pretty good. Now
yeah,
that,
that's some of everything.
and it does go with any red wine. I would say a Syrah is pretty good with that.
Mhm.
Just saying, a nice
It was
Syrah.
all good.
And I will say, I will not tell you what I had for breakfast this morning because it's just a little sugar high. Sometimes coffee goes well, but all is good. So let's go up. We're going to Virginia. We're going to pick up Cliff Garstang, who is an amazing author. Go to cliffordgarstang.com. He's an author of novels and short stories. And welcome back, Cliff. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here on Happy Hour.
Yeah, do you like our bus? Are you ready for Priscilla to make you a drink, a cocktail, or some food?
I could totally go for that. Sure.
Okay, so what are you looking for? Like, what would you
Well,
like her to make?
so my first hometown that I remember is Indianapolis, Indiana. And
Hmm.
although I was a kid when we moved away from there, I still associate uh, the drinks that were my parents were having to celebrate the Indy 500 races.
Oh.
And
Hmm.
so I would go with an ice cold beer and fried chicken.
There you go.
Oh, an ice cold
Hmm.
beer, fried chicken. That sounds good.
Hmm.
Because
That is good.
Race time.
we would pack all that up and take it to the track with us and
Ooh.
just eat and listen to the cars go round and round and sometimes see them. And uh, it was fun.
Cool.
So yeah, because it's the Indy sports car thing, right? The Indy races.
Right.
Yeah. I didn't know that we were supposed to have beer and, fried chicken when we were there recently. But Priscilla is good at frying anything. She made Nancy's grilled cheese sandwich, so I think you're fine with the chicken. Um,
Hmm.
and beer, do you have a preference of beer? What type of beer?
Well, so I drink fancy beer now, but back then my parents were drinking Schlitz, I think, or something awful.
Hey, listen, don't go against the Schlitzies. I'm drinking a Foster's beer right now, and there's a reason for it. And I love all beer. Yeah, IPAs are my thing, but I have a penchant for Foster's beer in the oil can. Can't help it. I know everyone looks at me like, what? That is not ladylike, but I really don't care. It's a thing. I'll get to my hometown thing on that, but very cool. Are you ready to go to the desert, Cliff?
Sure, let's go.
Now, have you been to Tucson before?
I have not.
All right. Well, you ready? Now, Joe, have you been to Tucson?
I have. Are we going by way of Sedona? I'd love to come down that mountain.
We could do that, but it's a little snowy out there from what I heard right now. I don't know if Priscilla wants to drive through that again this year, but we're hauling, but she can push. She's got all kinds of buttons she can push to, that we're safe and we can go, see all those beautiful red rocks and all. Yeah.
Covered in white snow.
Yeah. But you may have to, at a certain point, put all your drinks down, beers down, everything, and drink margaritas. I'm just saying it might have
we
to
can
happen.
do that.
Nancy,
Cliff, are you agreeable? Can we do that?
Sure. Yeah.
Nancy, you good with a margarita?
Of course.
All right.
It's in my blood.
Apparently this is a cocktail party. All right, off we go. All right. So we're here. We're picking up author Elaine Powers. She is a biologist, a conservationist. She writes children's books, and you can go to her website, ElaineAPowers.com. Elaine, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Now, I want to know, do you like our party bus? Does it kind of resemble anything from your small ship cruising in Galapagos or the Bahamas and Cayman Islands, all your research adventures that you've done over the years? Does this bus go with it, or are we too fancy or not fancy at all to you?
Well, actually, it kind of does. At the end of a day of really hard chasing iguanas field work, we'd go back to the boat and have some adult beverages and enjoy some good food. So yeah, it fits right in.
Awesome. All right. So what would you like Priscilla to make you?
Well, I'm kind of torn here because, I do live in Tucson now, but my hometown is Peoria, Illinois. So I would really prefer some pork barbecued ribs like Big John used to make, and maybe some Hiram Walker whiskey to go along with it.
Wow.
Of course.
Man, we got shiners, we got whiskey. This is good. We got beer, margaritas, we got rum. Okay. Okay, keep going.
If you're going to be here in Tucson, though, which is my newest town, we could go with those prickly pear margaritas.
Sign me up for that.
And then we got the Sonoran hot dog. You haven't lived until you've tried a Sonoran hot dog.
Well, tell everybody about that because that is a little different.
It's a local creation, and I'm trying to make sure I get all the ingredients. Is you take a hot dog and you wrap it in bacon. So you've cooked it in the bacon, and then it's got pinto beans and jalapenos and I think some salsa, all sorts of strange ingredients that you wouldn't think would go together. But oh my, it works so well. And you have to have them all. You can't just say, oh, I don't want the beans in it. No, you have to have all the ingredients.
You got me at bacon.
Me too.
Anytime you wrap a hot dog in bacon, it's good.
Yeah. We were in the Wilcox area at a winery, Coronado Vineyards, years ago. And in Yuma, Arizona, they grow the Medjool dates. And they were there in Yuma before Indio got them. And I have to just do that for plug because this is a really interesting thing because they did get these shoots from Morocco. They went to Yuma, planted them, and they grow naturally, right? Almost like a native plant because the desert there is very similar. And it's, to Morocco where Yuma is. It's the hottest, or not the hottest, sunniest place in the world. And it truly is. And they grow so natural that they don't have to have pesticides or anything. So anyway, these ladies at the winery had Medjool dates and they cooked up stuffed Medjool dates. They stuffed them with cream cheese, jalapeno, and wrapped them in bacon, fried them up, and we paired them with wine. And I'm just saying, not bad.
Sounds awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah. Who wants some? I do.
I do.
This is becoming a big fat party. Like we're
Yes,
really gonna like explore all kinds of food. But Elaine, you said it, so it's Peoria, not Peoria.
Peoria.
Huh. So when we were driving through, I always said Peoria, and it's not. So I'm wrong. Okay.
Well,
So
and you know that Peoria, Arizona was named after Peoria, Illinois.
Of course. Yeah.
okay. So then
Elaine, when I said that we moved from Indianapolis when I was a kid, we moved to Peoria, Illinois. So I moved there when I was in sixth
Cool.
grade.
Cool.
oh my gosh, small world. And on the show right now with Joe, aren't you and Joe like you guys know the same territory too?
Yeah, my
Same
current hometown is one of Joe's old hometowns,
Yep, he's in Stanton, right?
right?
And I
Wow.
went to Mary Baldwin College at that time. It's a university now, but Mary Baldwin is in Stanton.
This is crazy.
Well, we used to live in Peoria, South Africa.
No, we didn't. That was Pretoria. Pretoria.
I just
Pretoria.
changed it a
Close.
little.
And Pretoria.
Give her another
Pretoria-
beer.
Yeah,
I was
no.
telling, she's not having a beer right now. Trust me.
No,
Um,
you.
No.
Me, but
See, if you
Pretoria,
have another beer, you'll say it right.
Yeah.
Pretoria is, it was a city, it was one of the, I think it was the first place we lived when we got to South Africa. Very
Yeah.
short amount of time, but they have a museum. I was talking about this with Glenn, from Norfolk Tours, who has a show with us every fourth Saturday. And we were talking about people being buried under priories and churches and cathedrals.
Yeah.
Anyway, we talk about weird stuff like that all the time. And so I was like asking him if there's any mummies in England, like, and he was like, they have the Egyptian ones, but I'm like, did anybody just mummify? You know, do you have mummified Saxons and Romans or whatever, you know? And apparently not to his knowledge at that time. But I was just talking about mummies because I think mummies are pretty cool. Like it's fascinating that they could wrap them up. And in Pretoria, there's this museum, and it was the first time I saw a mummy as a kid. And I was like, dude, this is the coolest thing on the planet because not only was he all wrapped up, right? But, and listen, I didn't get to see all the movies you guys got to see in this country, but like this was cool. And he was in a glass case, you know. I think I'd seen mummies mostly in cartoons, but you could see his toe and
Yeah.
toenail
One-
kind of thing. Like it was like you could
Sticking
see
out.
it. It was peeking out of his white cloth.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah, the bandages were off of the one toe, at least half of his big toe.
It's so cool. Anyway, like that gets me into history, right? As a kid, like, woo, how did they make his body still be sitting here and I can see his toe and he's dead? Like I'm looking at a dead body, basically pickled and preserved. I mean, so he could be on happy hour, you know, but anyway, that's, and hey, wait a minute, Elaine, you have the thing near you.
Yes, yes, I do.
Tell everybody about the thing. Have you been to the thing? I think we've talked about the thing on these shows. Have you been to the thing?
Yes, and I confess I was a bit disappointed.
Yeah.
But they have these huge billboards out in the middle of the desert as you're driving along the highway saying you have to stop by and see this thing. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's something you have to do once in your life to say you've done it.
But apparently there's a mummy, right?
Yes, yeah, it's a mummified person.
It's so that can you see it? Like you get to see like the whole thing?
Oh yeah.
Like, well, that's cool. Come on, man. That's cool. Is that the thing? Is that
That's
supposed
the
to be
thing.
the mummy? We have to go, Nancy. Maybe
Well,
on our way.
Yeah, because in the movie, the mummy gets up and walks around and scares people. So,
Yeah.
This one just
Cool.
lies there in this little tourist trap spot.
And then all of a sudden he
Middle of
starts
nowhere.
singing Walk Like Egyptian. Yeah, like, yeah.
Well, it's not wrapped like an Egyptian mummy. It's mummified, meaning the dry desert air took all the moisture out.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Oh, well, you know, when we lived out in San Diego, we had a friend in Arizona, I'm not Arizona, Anza Borrego Desert State Park area. There's a place between the mountain town of Julian, which was a hometown for us, and the Anza-Borrego Desert State Park, which also encompasses the desert village of Borrego Springs. This is a 600,000 acre park. And in Shelter Valley, all I can say, it's a very interesting community. And this so-called friend, I don't know if I want to call him a friend, he was all into doing green burials in the desert. And he was like, people could, because of the mummification of the heat, until he saw a dead body in the desert and realized that they do not just immediately shrivel, that they blow up first and coyotes get them. So anyway, this is a fun show.
Yes, really, we should have done this on Halloween.
Yeah, really. Where was
this
this story then?
I don't know it's whenever Elaine comes on, like even our hiking show, Elaine, I think I freaked people out because I'm like, let's plan a murder in the woods, because Elaine is with the Tucson Sisters in Crime. Come on.
We get to you saying that.
Come on. We get to be creative, so it's fun. But, yeah. Do you guys ever study that in the Tucson Sisters in Crime when you have, the experts come in and teach you, all the crime stuff? Does anybody talk about bodies in the desert and how they mummify? Or
well, actually, I've given a couple talks on bone dispersals. That, when you leave a body out, how far do the coyotes and the mice and the vultures take the body pieces away from the initial body site? And how does clothing affect the dispersal of the bones?
Well, this is fantastic. Who wants chicken wings?
Unless it's like the wife murdered her husband and chopped him up, put him in a suitcase.
Yeah, that can happen. That can happen.
It
All right,
happened.
So I want to go. I'm going to, well, listen, we're talking desert stuff, and that is one of Elaine's hometowns is Tucson. So Elaine, going from Illinois, did you live anywhere different in between Illinois? Like, how did you go to Tucson? What was your journey?
Well, I left Peoria to go to Florida State University in Tallahassee.
Oh, wow. See, look at this.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's my old stomping ground. And then I went over to Pensacola to get my master's.
Cool.
And then up to...
I used to live in Pensacola.
Oh, yeah. It's a beautiful town.
It is.
And then I went to Houston, stayed there for a few years, and then up to Kalamazoo, Michigan, and then out to High Bridge, New Jersey, and from High Bridge to Tucson.
Wow.
Oh, you're like us, all over the place.
Is it the reptiles that led you to Tucson? Like the reptile life?
My company transferred me.
Oh, okay. And do you like it?
Oh, very much.
Isn't it awesome? It is awesome. It is.
Because they asked if I'd be interested in moving, and I said yes. When would you like me out there? And they said, well, think about it over the weekend. No, I don't need to think about it. Thank you.
Wow.
Desert, take me.
When you were here in Tallahassee, and Nancy and I both lived all over Florida when we first got back to this country, and for about 2 years. And we finally, when being on this tour now, the Love Your Parks tour, and doing Florida over the last few years, got to go back to one of our favorite parks. And it is St. Mark's National Wildlife Refuge. It's just south of Tallahassee. Have you been there?
Oh, yes.
Is it not
awesome?
Amazing? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
There's gators, and they have pygmy rattlesnakes. I'm talking about snakes again. Pygmy rattlesnakes and all kinds of cool stuff out there, man. And Joe, you know this area really well too. You've done a lot in North Florida.
Yeah, I worked for Natural North Florida for a couple of years and traveled all around a 14-county area and wrote about them.
Cool.
So, Joe, what was your first hometown?
Well, I have to lay claim to Martinsville, Virginia, where I was born and lived most of my first 45 years. And from there, moved to Snowville, Virginia when I was in grad school and lived there for 3 years and went back to Martinsville. Then I moved to Surfside Beach, South Carolina, where I love the beach and have been here ever since.
So do you call Martinsville and Surfside your hometowns?
I do. I have to claim both of them.
Yeah.
But my heart's in Surfside.
Yeah, it's like kind of there's this thing that happens when you're an adult, you get to make these choices.
You pick your hometown.
Yeah, you pick your
I picked
hometown
mine and moved here. People
like
say, "Oh, you're
like,
so lucky."
Yeah. I mean, Elaine, you got, transferred there, but you wanted it. So that's different. So you've got to call Tucson hometown, right? But, any of the other places that you live between Peoria, not Peoria, I'm still stuck on Peoria, Peoria and, Tucson, do you claim them as hometowns, or are you looking at Peoria and Tucson as your main two?
Those are my main two. I've lived the
Okay.
longest in both.
There's just something about being when you're part of the community, right?
Mhm.
And knowing what's happening and having a voice and all of that good stuff. Cliff, what about you? What's the start and progression? Because you've got some hometowns all around the world.
Yeah. So we moved to Indianapolis when I was like 3 or 4. I had been born in Fort Wayne, Indiana, which I have no recollection of at all, of course. Peoria then through high school, and then I went to college in Chicago, grad school in Indiana. So I also claim a Korea hometown because I was in the Peace Corps in South Korea while I was in graduate school. So I was there for 2 years. So Chunju, South Korea, which is the home of bibimbap, if anybody's interested in the culinary features of that hometown. And came back, finished law school, worked in Chicago, and they transferred me to my next hometown, which was Singapore. So I lived in Singapore for close to 10 years, and that counts as a hometown, I think.
And that's your latest book, The Last Bird of Paradise,
Right.
set in Singapore.
Right.
Yeah. I want to go to those botanical gardens, man. I do. Yeah, for sure. For sure. So, wow. So
And then eventually I ended up here in Virginia after stints in Central Asia and Boston and Washington, D.C. for 5 or 6 years. And I've been here in rural Virginia for 23 years.
What is it that rural Virginia appealed to you to move there?
It's just beautiful.
It is.
Mountains on both sides of me, the Blue Ridge on one side, the Alleghenies on the other. The valley, Shenandoah Valley, has lots of creeks and rivers and beautiful scenery, especially this time of year. Spring and fall are fantastic. And yeah, I like it. And I'm in this just outside of the small town that Joe knows of Stanton, Virginia, which is a kind of a cultural oasis in an otherwise pretty rural farming world, with lots of culture and shops and great restaurants. And it's quite a nice little town to live nearby.
Everywhere we're talking about so far has a lot of agriculture and kind of farm to table. Even Tucson has, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site for food, gastronomy site, right? That's amazing. But Elaine, you know about wheat and things like that, right? Is it corn that's in Peoria?
Corn and soybean.
Soybean, not wheat. Okay.
Not wheat.
So you told me that you were going to say, okay, so Pabst Breweries. See, now that's Pabst Breweries. Didn't they make Schlitz?
No, they made Pabst.
Pabst Blue Ribbon
I thought
Beer.
they did both.
Pabst
I thought
Blue
they did
Ribbon.
both.
PBR.
Okay.
The Pabst Blue Ribbon Beer.
Sorry. Listen, the first beer I had when we got to this country, I almost died. It was natural light beer, and I was like, that is not a beer. That is not a beer. But since I'm drinking a Foster's, I'll shut up. But hey, so Pabst, yeah, I mean that. And then Caterpillar tractors, were they created there, like manufactured there? What was the thing about
The
the
international headquarters of Caterpillar
Wow.
Tractors is in Peoria, and they had factories all around the area.
You know what? I'm sorry, but farm equipment looks like alien stuff. It does. When you go through those, farming towns in the Midwest, and you'll go somewhere and all of a sudden, like there's just these huge pieces of machines, like it's alien stuff. It looks like it could go on the moon. I'm serious.
Oh,
To
I'm
me,
sure it could go on the moon, no trouble. Have to get
I
it there,
know.
though.
Yeah, well, apparently some people can do that, but
Yeah,
I think we should just
apparently.
take care of what we have right now. I don't know, but Nancy, I want to go to you as hometowns, which you've given me many. Um, thank you. Um, let's start with you because yours starts out in Southern California, so completely different side. We've kind of got the whole country except for Hawaii and Alaska kind of covered. If we talk about the lower 48, we've got the whole side going with you being in Southern California.
hmm I was born in this little tiny town outside of LA called Tahunga. And
I
then
don't think it's
my,
tiny now.
yeah, Sunland Tahunga area. And my dad worked for his dad, my grandfather, who was known as the butcher for the Hollywood stars. He had a butcher shop, and all of his clients were actors and actresses. And so we ended up living in Hollywood. And I think of that as my home because that's when my brother and I were old enough to sneak out the window and go walk down Sunset Strip all the time.
And
That,
and
that was great fun.
and Sunset Strip is it still iconic to people? Like when they go to LA, do you think? Because you made sure when we moved to San Diego that we went there, and you were kind of
hmm
disappointed because it wasn't like how you grew up with that,
Well, we didn't see anybody, like there's people, but when I was a kid, there were all kinds of movie stars and in fancy cars going up and down Sunset Strip, and they were handing out autographs, and it was a whole different thing. So,
Except for the Marlboro Man was still there. I don't know if he's
well, the
still there now.
Marlboro Man is probably still there because he's stuck on a billboard.
I don't know. He's the man. So the
Yeah,
Sunset
he's the
Strip,
man.
I mean, that's where, places like the Whiskey a Go-Go are and all of that.
hmm The
Is anybody
Troubadour, yeah.
on the Troubadour? I think mostly the Troubadour, you're right. That's really, has
That
anybody
was a
on
big
the
one.
on the call right now been on the strip
I
in
have.
LA?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
lived
hmm
in LA for a year and a half.
mm
And so I hit all the spots that one needs to see, especially when, family came to town and I would show them around
mm
the city. So I saw all those things. I can't say that I really experienced them.
mm.
Nancy did. She was a naughty girl. And Venice
No,
Beach. You went
but
to Venice Beach.
it was really interesting because there were so many weird people walking the streets.
Well,
There really were.
Well, you
well,
say Venice Beach. I lived in Santa Monica, so that was
oh,
Oh,
Venice Beach
yeah,
was right down the
yeah.
strip there. So it was very easy to get to. I walked there from my house.
Oh, cool.
no way. Like, dude,
Yeah,
seriously.
that's cool.
I can say dude. Venice
Yeah,
Beach is, I
that's
don't know,
crazy too.
yeah, we started going there a lot when we lived in San
hmm
Diego, a lot. In fact, so one of our hometowns would be Julian it's in the
hmm
mountains of San Diego. And they had a winery there, or still do, excuse me, Mangini Winery.
hmm
And sometimes we call it Manguini Winery, but anyway, they're the first winery up in the mountains. So this was a gold rush town. And Nancy and I found it when we moved from Florida to California, and we were driving across, and our stuff was getting shipped across the country. But her and I road tripped with our cars, trying to follow each other, which I don't know. I don't know if mother daughter should follow each other in cars ever across the country, but it was funny. It was hysterical, but we took detours because we're not good at highways. We're like, we want to see stuff, and found Julian, and all of a sudden, and this was like my first experience in the West, and my eyeballs just like flipped, this is the West. The dirt, I felt like I was more at home because it was like Africa. And
Hmm.
then all of a sudden we did this detour and ended up in this mountain town, and there was still snow on the sides. There was a horse and carriage and daffodils in bloom, and everything was Western style. And I'm like looking at, I pull over. I'm like, what the heck is this? And there's a saloon. I'm like, well, let's go. So, so that was Julian. And then when we started the magazine, it became what expanded us by the first issue. And Nancy, we ended up living there and
Hmm.
going to Venice Beach from there. We ended up living there, and we went to we hadn't lived there yet. We hadn't moved there yet. But remember that grape stomp at Mangini's
Yeah.
when there were these Irish not exchange students, there were these veterinarian students that came over to America every year.
That was
And this year
crazy.
they were in San Diego, and they ended up at the Grape Stomp, and we all got in the Grape Stomp tank together, and we're all having a good time. This is such a hometown family event. Great music, great wine, food, family, friendship, just really laid back. Do you think even 500 people there? It's kind of laid back. What do you
Yeah.
think, Nancy? How many
Well,
people?
yeah, and then we're busy stomping grapes with people that we don't really know.
But the Irish folks, yeah, they were in
But
there.
we ended up in the biggest grape fight ever.
We did, because this woman got in the tank and dropped her
It was,
glass. You're in a
yeah.
tank, you're stomping, and she ruined the grape stomp forever because
And she
now
was
you could
dressed
only
all
do,
in white. So guess
and
what
she,
happened?
all of us immediately turned around and pelted her because she just dropped her glass all la-di-da, like, eh, you know, and everybody's careful about being in there if you're going to drink wine, and you shouldn't, you've got glass. That's stupid. But everybody was being responsible until this woman just looked and just dropped it at us. Like, it was weird. And
She did it on
so we
purpose.
just all looked at her, and she's got this, flowy white shirt. And we said, no, you don't anymore. And we pelted her, and we became fast friends. And next thing you know, we went in a convoy, and now, we smelled like alcohol because you're stomping basically vodka and grapes.
Yeah.
It was
Vodka and
no real
grapes.
wine, but it does feel
Mm-mm.
good on your feet. And we drove that night. We went back to San Diego, picked up some of our band, and had a party with them, and then drove to Venice Beach, took them to Venice Beach, and they said after all the years coming to the United States, this was their favorite experience ever. There were drum circles, there was blues bands, there was the lady with her umbrella, the guy on the skateboard that's in Fast Times in Ridgemont High or whatever that movie is. That was fun, Nancy. That was
Oh,
your
yeah.
backyard. So you went
Yeah,
to
that
Venice
was
Beach
really
as a
fun.
kid?
Yeah, but when I went as a kid, I was with my parents, and that wasn't, you couldn't do anything really fun but play in the water, which was fun, but not like, my brother and I used to sneak off and go see what was going on in the restaurants and bars and places that you're not supposed to go as kids. And the guards would always let us in and say, here, let me show you how to get in. And we're like, cool.
That's funny.
It was funny, and they liked us, so they'd let us, and just said, let's keep your head down and be quiet. So we saw lots of weird stuff.
Wow. That sounds like the making for a book here. Wow.
Mhm.
So
But it was
I want to
fun.
go. Cliff, did you experience any of this craziness?
No. I
Or
every
with Lucy and Ethel.
Yeah, really.
um
Gosh.
I was practicing law in LA, and I spent most
Uh,
of my time driving from Santa Monica to downtown LA, and
oh,
Oh,
so
yikes.
I didn't do a whole lot of craziness. I did on weekends bike up down the coast. So I saw a lot of beautiful people, but none that I even recognized, and didn't hang out
Hmm.
with because I was working.
yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, that happens. LA is the traffic number one is crazy. The first time we went, we
Mm.
had part of our band, our drummer and bass player, and we went and we were supposed to
Oh.
have some audition with an MTV dude, and it was just so surreal and weird. It was weird. And our drummer, we went to our drummer's sister's house the night, and when we were there, somebody jumped off a overpass bridge, and
Mm.
so it was like 2 in the morning when we were driving back or something, and I had to drive around a dead body. Now we're back to dead bodies again. This is good.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that was not cool. That was not fun like
No, that
Halloween. That
wasn't.
was not cool. That was like, whoa, that was not cool. But yeah, LA was kind of a woo, you know,
Yeah.
for, someone that came out of Africa. I thought that was like a big, whoa, wake up and smell the coffee in LA. But we went all over, Nancy. It was cool to
Hmm.
see where you grew up, but you also did like a lot of Orange County, right? For beaches and all of that.
Oh, yeah. Every time I could get out, I got out. And my brother and I mean, there were other kids in our family, but my brother and I are like 13 months apart. And so we're like, come on, let's go, man. And the
Hmm.
others would never sneak out, but we did. And we went to different beaches. We took buses all over the place. Once in a while, we had a friend drive us around. Sometimes we thought about hitchhiking, but mostly not because it was kind of scary. But we got to see a whole lot of stuff. And then when you got home, my parents would grill you and say, "What'd you do all day?" And we would, um, let's just say, go into fiction mode.
Okay, so let's talk about this, about being kids in a hometown. Shenanigans. Elaine, any shenanigans in Peoria? Peoria. Still want to say
Peoria?
Peoria. Peoria. Yeah. Any shenanigans?
Not really.
Oh,
I liked
We,
riding my bicycle around the neighborhood. That was always fun.
that's
yeah.
cool.
There was the Springdale Cemetery I wasn't allowed to go to by myself,
Oh,
but if I took a adult along, I could go. But
Did
oh,
you
no,
like going to, we're back to, we're right back to dead bodies again. So,
exactly.
I mean,
There's a lot of
so you,
history in cemeteries.
there's
It
oh,
was
tons.
yeah.
it was fun seeing how, we had some really old ones and how old people were when they died.
Mm.
What part of town
What
did
would,
you live in, Elaine?
I lived up near Prospect Drive and War Memorial.
Oh, okay, sure. I lived just north of Richwoods High School.
Okay, so
Hmm.
you were on the other side of town.
Yeah.
is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Just different. I was
Just
by
different.
Woodruff High School and he was by Richwoods.
Okay. That's this is amazing how everyone's connected in some way, right?
Hmm.
I I have a feeling that Joe had shenanigans.
Who, me?
Yeah. You have shenanigans as a
No.
kid?
Oh,
I
come
was
on.
I was good.
No, you weren't.
Mm.
Yeah, I was pretty good because I was afraid I'd get caught. I
Oh.
I need my luck. The
Mm.
worst things we did, my girlfriend and I would walk through the woods down to the creek and wade in the creek and catch crawdads, and we would walk down to where her grandfather had her some ponies for the grandchildren, and we would catch the ponies and ride them when we weren't supposed to be down there. So when I fell off of Charlie, um, I had to limp home and then pretend I was fine and hide my bruised behind so that mama wouldn't know that I had hurt myself and start questioning how I hurt myself and
Wow.
find out I'd been somewhere I wasn't supposed to be and riding horses I wasn't supposed to be riding.
I
There you
think
go.
you and I have some similarities.
Hmm.
I did lots of that. I got myself chased by a bull doing stuff
Well,
like
I
that.
got myself chased by a pony and caught and bit in the middle of my back.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
I
do
got
nip.
tossed off of a Shetland pony and those little things. Everyone's like, "Oh, cute Shetland pony." Every time I see a Shetland
Mm-mm.
pony,
Oh, they're
it
mean
has a
little
different
things.
name. Yeah, I got a different name for them.
Yeah, I
They're
do
Uh-uh.
too.
feisty. They're very
Don't mess with the
feisty.
Shetland.
Mm-mm.
Man, no, I got in trouble with one of, yeah. Yeah. Learned real quick. Don't mess with the Shetlands.
Hmm.
It's
No,
because they were cute. They got away with everything. Nobody really trained them or disciplined them. So
They
they were
bit.
just mean.
They
uh,
bit.
Yeah,
they
they did.
and tossed you right off. You don't think you can just ride bareback, you know? Oh, but come on, being a kid and, this is the part of
Mm.
this conversation is growing up, like look at Nancy is so different. Like, I was born in what, Sylmar, Northridge in Southern
Hmm.
California, but I
Yeah.
don't remember any of it really. I think I see a pool and like some visions, I can't remember any
Yeah,
of
we
that,
had a
but
swimming pool. It was very civilized.
so I had a pool and some certain things, but, when in Kenya, I remember Kenya really well and being
Mm.
Karen is a neighborhood of Nairobi. And that was like my first hometown.
Yeah.
We made friends, and for the first 2 years or so that we were there, we lived in the bush and I was with different tribes. And I can't say that's a town because it's like a village, I don't
It's
even
a,
understand how to say all that. But
well, that's it. It
Karen,
was an African village
mhm,
that you lived in because where the boss I had, for some reason, her mind was I would never think to bring a child of like a year and a half old into the African bush. And in my mind, at least always go wherever I went. And
Yeah.
so she
What were you going
was
to do
in,
with her? Leave her in California?
yeah, exactly. And she knew I had a kid, but she was like, "You brought her here?" And I'm like, "What?"
mm. Well, you learn wildlife real quick.
Well,
And,
she had leopards walking into the camp, and we're talking about Joy Adamson of Born Free. And
mhm.
so it didn't work out to have a child there. So Lisa went and lived with the neighboring wife.
Yeah. But then childhood, like going to school and stuff was in Karen.
Yeah,
And well, that's
that
where,
was very
there was
fancy.
well, Nancy also worked for an attorney. And then at some point I went to a different school in a different village, but it was like schoolhouse. So it didn't feel like Karen was like when
That was
everything kind
very
of came to
fancy.
be, yeah, now it's like, good Lord, if you want to buy real estate, good luck with that one over in
Yeah,
Karen now.
it's
Holy
very,
cow.
very
I'm like,
fancy.
we were living like it's named after Karen Blixen,
Hmm.
if everybody reads or watches out of Africa. Um, and so that was part of her original farm. And so
Yeah.
we lived out there and it's all was farmland when we were there. Um, and I think there was only one American family down the road and I was friends with Chrissy
Hmm.
and her and I would run through the fields and we would swim in the big water troughs for the cattle. And that
Yeah.
was like our swimming pool. I mean, we're in the equator. It's a little warm, but now you look at a watering trough and going, what the heck were you doing? But as kids, I mean, playing like what Joe was saying, Cliff, did you have any of those memories of being out in I wonder about kids now today having these kinds of experiences where you do fall off a horse, you do stuff out that you're not supposed to, and you need to do that kind of stuff. I remember being chased by boys with a BB gun and stuff, through the woods in South Africa. And it was, but we threw it anyway. We did things to them, it's just like kid stuff out in nature. Did you have any of that when you were growing up?
No, man, I lived a really quiet childhood, both in Indiana and Illinois. We
Wow.
lived in Illinois. We lived in this little subdivision where we were far away from everything. There was, except on my bicycle, I couldn't really go anywhere, um,
Hmm.
and there was nowhere to go anyway. So definitely did not get into any mischief there. I remember that we in Indianapolis we belonged to a swimming club, and that was my favorite thing to do. But somebody
Hmm.
would have to take me there so that I could hang out at the pool. But that was as interesting as it got, I'm afraid.
Oh. Man.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting about how we all, grew up in a place. Now, if each of you are going to say, like, someone's coming to town and you're going to take them to one of your hometowns. So pick a hometown. What would you say? Okay, I'm going to take you for a day in this hometown. What are you going to do? Where are you going to go eat, drink? Where are you going to spend happy hour? Yeah, we have to put that in there. And like, what would you take them to experience? So, Nancy, let's start with you over what hometown are you going to pick? I mean, because we got a lot of hometowns, but where would
I
you go?
know. But hmm, I would like to take somebody from Kenya to Hollywood.
Oh my gosh, no, poor things.
I know. Well, because it's so different, or vice versa, take somebody from Hollywood to Kenya
mm,
and just so they can see the other side of things,
hmm
and that would be fun.
See the real wildlife.
Well, yeah, there's wildlife on both sides, just different kinds.
Hmm
So,
Yeah. Where would you take them if you're taking them to Kenya? Where would you take them for happy hour?
well, there's two ways of looking at happy hour in Kenya. There's into a bar which is mostly British or South African owned, or you could go to a tribal bar which is in a tent and way stronger drink.
And more
I
interesting.
vote for the tent.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
but
it could get really strong. Like
okay, wait.
you might not leave the tent for a couple of days.
No, but there are some interesting nightclubs in Nairobi back in the day.
Yes.
Remember the people on stilts that would walk around on
Oh
stilts?
gosh, what was that? That was so weird. They had a thing about walking around on stilts, and after
Mhm.
they had a few drinks, they weren't all that good at it. So you got to sit in the little tables outside with the umbrellas and watch people fall down.
There was a lot of touristy stuff too, but the stilts
Yeah,
are funny. Yeah.
yeah, the
And
stilts
then
were funny.
remember the Two Fishes Hotel in Mombasa where people could swim up
Mm.
to a bar and sit at the
Yeah,
bar in the pool
in the
and at
pool.
the
That was
overlooking the
awesome.
beach.
Yeah,
I prefer being on the beach personally, but
but it kept you
it's
cool
cool.
because it got pretty hot there.
Yeah,
So,
it did.
so
Yeah.
I understand why they did it.
hmm
But they always said they didn't have to worry about you falling down as long as you could float.
There you go. Man. So Elaine, what hometown are we going to for your visitor?
I think we're going to go to Peoria.
Ah,
Hmm.
And
and what are we going to do?
I would take them up along Grandview Drive so that you could look down on the Illinois River. Especially if I took someone who grew up in the Tucson area, so they could see what an actual river looks like. Um,
Yeah, not a wash, an arroyo.
exactly, that
Yeah.
flows only during monsoon. Although we did
Hmm.
have Dry Run Creek in Peoria, which would have a flash flood every
Oh,
spring.
well,
But
that's interesting. Hmm.
and I take them out and have them enjoy some good fresh sweet corn to go along with those barbecued ribs, maybe some fried catfish. And alcoholic choices. We got the Hiram Walker whiskey and Pabst Brewery,
Mm.
and they could experience humidity, and they would also see that Illinois is not flat.
Oh, that's true.
We actually do have some pretty sizable river bluffs.
You do. You do. And there's one between Kansas and Illinois, I think we went through. I have to look up in
Oh
my
yeah.
records of it. And rivers. I mean, the water out there in the Midwest is amazing. I just love all your prairie flowers and prairies. I love
Hmm.
it.
Oh yes,
I
yes.
I love it. But listen, the cornfields, like you guys, yeah, Cliff,
Yeah.
Indianapolis, and Indiana, like I have to really watch myself in there because I got pulled over in a cornfield. Like I wasn't in the cornfield, but I was driving through cornfields and they changed the speed limit every row almost. Like, and I totally got nailed and I knew I was getting nailed. I was like, dang it, you know, and he pulled me over and he gave me like a warning. And, um, every time I'm there because I'm like, are they like, if I get pulled over and I've already been warned in Indiana, I'm going to get a ticket, right? So I'm like, every time we go through Indiana and they always get me at the tolls. What's up with that in Indiana? I have a thing about the Indiana roads. I'm just saying. I do. I'm like a little, no, the toll roads in Indiana. No, I have a thing about them. Can you change
Well,
it?
the only toll roads are up around Chicago, right? I don't think we have other toll,
No.
do we?
Oh, yes, you do. They nailed me on every no. Well, we drove from Connecticut to Michigan, and boy, did we get nailed in Indiana, one after the other. And their toll roads had more potholes than the non-toll roads.
Yeah.
And Indianapolis, we were there, what, a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years?
I
Man,
don't know.
yeah,
Lost
I think
track.
because it's places with snow really get it with potholes, right? With snow. Is that
Yeah,
part of it that you guys get it more because
yeah,
of that?
because
The
the
weather.
roads freeze
Yeah.
and then
Okay.
they shatter when they
Hmm.
thaw
All
again.
right. Okay, I'll be nice now. Okay. But yeah, well, between that and New Orleans, our poor car. But that's it. That's all I have to say. But I mean, the Midwest is gorgeous. It really is. So what hometown are you going to take someone to, Cliff?
Uh, Stanton, so right where I am now. And happy hour here outside my house is about to begin. So I'm heading down to a wine bar in downtown Stanton. It's called Accordia, and it's a European style wine bar in that it's owned by a German woman, and she has wines from all over the place. It's awesome. So
Mm.
that's where we would definitely have a bottle or two there. And she also has great food. So it's a terrific little wine bar. But one of the cultural attractions here is the American Shakespeare Center,
Hmm.
which is the world's only recreation of Shakespeare's indoor theater, the Blackfriars Playhouse. And it's a year-round repertory company, so there's always a show to go to. And like this weekend, I think they're doing The Merry Wives of Windsor and Macbeth, and then a
Oh,
comedy that I'm going to on Sunday, which is called Dracula, a comedy of terrors.
Hmm.
cool.
Very
That's
cool.
cool. That's cool. That sounds fun. That
Hmm.
sounds good fun. Yeah. Macbeth, I've got to go to a Macbeth thing. I love my witches of Macbeth. Got to do that for sure. Now, what about you, Joe?
Well, I love the beach, so of course I'm gonna be in Surfside, and I think I'll take you with me since you love the beach.
Okay,
Um, and
cool.
we'll go walking on the beach at sunrise, and then we're going to yoga class and do our yoga on the beach. And the ocean breeze feels so nice. You forget that the humidity is 95%. And from there, I think we'll go down to Brook Green Garden and walk through Brook Green and spend a few hours there. And we'll go to Charlie's, Surfside Charlie's for happy hour and get wine and zucchini fries and prime rib. And then tomorrow morning, we're getting up early and go to La Bellamy Vineyard because they have Saturdays, they have live music and they have two bands. So when the band takes a
Cool.
break, the other band starts playing. So there's never a pause in the music all day
Hmm.
from 12 to 4:30. Uh, and that will be our day in Surfside Beach.
Mm. And I'm going to take you all to Port Elizabeth, South Africa, which was my
Hmm.
teenage stomping grounds. And we're going to have a braai. We're going to have a lekker, lekker braai, which means it's a good, wonderful barbecue in someone's backyard. And that means friends, family, all ages go, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
in South Africa, my friends were like, the parents and the teenagers and the babies, everyone goes.
All together. Yeah.
And that's why we could never really get away with anything, just saying. We had the
Right.
village. And you go to a backyard. So if someone's having what's called a potjiekos, that means you're doing a pot of food, a potjie, and that's what we would do. And if you'd go out for the morning, go to the beach. It's the windy city. So we're talking about Chicago, the windy city of Chicago. Well, Port Elizabeth was the windy city, but we had penguins. I'm just saying, we got
Mm-hmm.
penguins in Port Elizabeth. Very important. Beautiful beaches, amazing food, so much history. If you want to spend a weekend, I would take people to Addo Elephant Park, National Elephant
Yeah.
Park. And this is a
Awesome.
specific kind of elephant that you are endemic just to that area. And so I would make sure we have that wild side. And there's also Kariga Park, which is, we covered that in Nancy's magazine when they first opened. And it wasn't it a cricketer or Nancy that started it? It was a cricketer, famous cricketer or
Well,
rugby.
the owner was a lawyer and his son was a famous cricketer,
Yeah.
cricket player.
And
Yeah.
Nancy hung out with a lot of lawyers as she should. Cliff, you would have been at her happy hour at her office if you lived in South Africa. But we'd do that nature side of it. And then have this potjie, which everyone gets together. And like I said, all ages. The potjie is like a Dutch oven. Like, they put it in the ground. You could have anything from chicken and sausage. It's basically whatever needs to go in there. It's a very Dutch tradition of whatever food you have, you put in the pot, and everyone did.
With
It's
a
kind of like
lid.
jambalaya, right? And gumbo and that kind of thing. And then they do what's called boerewors, which is a very fatty sausage. The big
Yummy.
coils go on. They don't have them all little, they don't slice and dice them. It's like the coil goes on there. And it's normally cooked with beer. Apparently, all meat that goes on the braai, which is a barbecue, must be covered in beer. And we used to do a lot of kebabs, skewers with meat and stuff like that. That was a big deal. And then what was called train smash, which is putu, which is like polenta, is like a grits kind of thing. And train smash is like tomato, like a salsa that's heated up.
Yeah.
We called it train smash. And so you'd have those kind of meals. And of course, South African wine must be flowing on all area. I mean, that's the best wine on the
Really good
planet.
wine.
I'm just
Mhm.
saying, South
Yeah.
Africa, I say rivals France. I'm just
Mhm.
saying. And then there's
Mhm.
also local beers if you want to have that, like Castle Lager. I don't know if that's still in existence. And then we did have what was called cane. So it's kind of like vodka and gin put together. I don't know how it's like a
Mhm.
clear, maybe it's moonshine. You
Cane
could
and
have
Coke.
that. Yeah.
Coca-Cola,
Cane
I
and
should
Coke.
say,
Cane and
not.
Coke was a very popular drink there. I don't know if they're doing that. I have to ask my friends if they're doing that. Nobody had that. They're all into margaritas and tequilas now over there. It's
Mhm.
changed. I mean, they have Netflix and everything now. So it's like a whole different world. But potjiekos still remains, and it's just really good to see families be together on all age groups and be able to
Mhm.
have conversations and just a lot of respect for each other is happening. And now, different than when we were there, it's very multicultural. As kids didn't care about anything, but of course adults were fighting when we were there. But now I'm seeing my friends' kids, everybody of every color and walk of life are having friends and family together. And I think my
That's
generation
cool.
that was there is doing a good job. So I'd want people to experience that, the beautiful side. The people in South Africa are amazing. There was some drama, and some bad people, but
It was
People
fun.
are resilient. And so I think a good lesson for that is South Africa. So I would want to do that. And then we'd have to go on a road trip down the garden route. So you could see all the
Hmm.
proteas and the Tsitsikamma National Forest and the sugar birds. And okay, so anyway, I would take you on a big nature trip. Sorry, I got extended. But anyway, South Africa and the Cape, I recommend anyone goes. Has anybody on the show? I know, Joe, you went to Namibia. Did you get to South Africa?
No, just
Wow.
Namibia. I was all
Oh,
over Namibia for nearly a month. Um,
Mm.
I would love to go to South Africa and some of the other countries, but I would also go back to Namibia. I can be packed in 10 minutes.
yeah, yeah, me too. 5.
You know, South Africa's motto was a world in one country
Hmm. Yeah.
because no matter where you went, it was completely different than the last place you were in, like 20 minutes away, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds like Namibia.
Hmm.
Mm.
The
Yeah,
desert
and the
and the mountains and the
coast.
ocean.
Hmm.
Hmm. Yeah. Now, have you been there, Elaine? With all your nature escapades and the Galapagos and all of that, have you been to Africa?
I have.
Mm.
I've been to Uganda, Kenya,
Oh, cool.
Madagascar.
Oh, you went to Madagascar? No
Oh, yeah.
kidding.
Cool.
It was fabulous, just fabulous.
Oh, oh my
Mm.
gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And so Kenya, that is awesome. When were you there?
It was back in I guess about 2000.
Oh wow. So you were
Yeah.
there after us. Wow, we haven't
Yeah.
been home for a long time. Wow, a lot of
Mm-mm.
connections on this. Cliff, what about you? Have you been to Africa? I know you did a lot of Asia, but Africa at all?
Missed the entire continent, which I feel terrible about. I'd love to go.
We missed the Asia continent completely too.. So we should just trade off, you know.
We
We
could
need
go
to
see
trade off.
tigers.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, that's one thing. We want to go do tigers. But yeah, the wildlife. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us for a fun happy hour, just reminiscing about childhood. Do any of you ever think back to childhood, like and miss things? Any of you on the show that you kind of like miss things and wish like youth today may have had, like may you wish they had as an experience in closing?
Oh,
Hmm.
I do. I think about kids today don't know what it's like to just go wander through the woods for 3 or 4 hours and, pretend that you live in the woods and uh, build little stick
Sports.
forts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And wade
Yeah.
in the creek and pretend you're going to catch dinner with a stick and a string. And, you're never going to catch a fish because there probably isn't any fish other than a minnow in the creek, but you're still trying and pretending. I don't think kids today pretend in their head. They don't have that creativity.
Well,
Mm.
I
it's
do
because of
that now with
TV.
my creek.
Do you do that,
Mhm.
Cliff?
Yeah, I've
You
got
go,
little fish in my creek. I go down there and pretend that I'm fishing.
that's the only way I can fish too. I'd go like, here's my stick.
Mm.
And, but that's cool. Like Cliff, anything from your side of what you wish kids would have today from growing up, your youth?
I don't think so. It was pretty sheltered childhood. I do miss having a huge sporting event that was sort of the way the world was organized. Every May when we'd focus on the Indy 500, that was kind of fun. But I think kids still do that. So
Mm. Well, I think you totally changed your sheltered childhood. Look what you went all over, lived in different countries. And so
Mm.
it kind
Cool.
of did something for you. You know what I
I think
mean?
we know. I think we know why. So definitely
It
looking for
must
the
have been
adventure.
that beer. It was that beer.
Could be.
That could be that beer. I don't know. I don't know. Elaine, what about you? What do you think for the youth?
Well, I wish kids had the freedom and the safety to get on their bike and just go riding for hours, and the parents would know
Yeah.
they'd be safe and come home when it got started to get dark. That was our rule. We had to be home before dark. Um,
Mm.
and it was fun to go exploring places and just ride around.
I agree. I think we had the rules too, like, get in it this time, and you knew when you were doing something wrong. You knew when you were exploring and experimenting, oh, I can climb this, I can do that, even though mom told me not to. But that's how you grow up. You have to have that freedom as a kid. And I think you're so right. Now, like, do kids have that ability to just go out? I don't think so. It's not the same, which is sad. But, that's why we have parks, and we can take kids to parks and just let them go a little bit. I've had hiking experts say, if you're hiking with kids, let the kids go in front. Be behind them immediately in case there's a snake or something. But let them have that experience so they can have that discovery where you're not creating the discovery for them. Let them have the awe. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they feel like they're on their own adventure. So they're exploring. So stand back and let the kids do it. So there's different ways to do it, but I agree. I mean, I was totally wild out there in the wild, but it makes you be super observant and aware, and also you don't have time to not be strong. You're either going to be weak or cry, and you don't have time to cry if something goes wrong. In my growing up in Africa, you had to move it if something was charging you, right, Nancy? Or snakes. How many times did I have snake experiences? Well, thank you again, everyone. Keep up with Jo. Go to haveglasswilltravel.com. Again, she's on Big Blend Radio every second Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, Elaine, go to ElaineAPowers.com, and talking about, youth. Check out her amazing books for the youth and kids. And also keep up with Cliff. Go to CliffordGarstang.com. He's got awesome books, novels, short story collections, and keep up with him there. And of course, keep up with Nancy and I at BigBlendRadio.com. Happy hour to everyone, and happy Thanksgiving too to everyone.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us here on Big Blend Radio's Happy Hour podcast. New episodes air every second Monday and third Friday. Visit us at BigBlendRadio.com.